على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Inshallah, we'll talk about the life of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu today, continue our talk. And today we want to talk about something very important actually. There is something that has been abused by the enemies of Islam when it comes to the relationship between Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu and Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu. And it is important for us to understand and apply the rulings regarding this subject in a correct manner. So number one thing that I want to talk about is from the verse in Surah Al-Hujurat, where Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned to us, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. صدق الله العظيم. This ayah actually gives us a very important principle for us to how to take the news or the information, because if we do not take the information the way it's supposed to be taken, then it can be problematic for us. And this ayah, the meaning of the verse is, O you who believe, if a fasiq meaning a liar, evildoer, transgressor, he comes to you with any news, verify it. Lest you should harm people in ignorance and afterwards you become regretful of the mistakes that you have done based on the information that was, to begin with, the source was not valid to take it from, because without the verification. And the reason I brought this verse is when we look at the historical events and to take and learn the history of Islam from the sources of the enemies of Islam is problematic to begin with. And as we know, when we talk about the history becomes his story or her story rather than what the reality was, right? There could be his story or her story and there's a truth. And when it comes to Islamic literature, when it comes to Islamic, whether it's talk about the history, whether we talk about the hadith of Rasulullah the Sunnah or the Quran, all of it was compiled and collected based on narrations. And when we talk about narrations, riwayat means that every rawi, every reporter in the report has been verified, or the information about those reporters have been given to us. Now, talking about Khalid bin Walid, so now history also in Islam, especially the earlier history books, like when we talk about Sirah ibn Ishaq, or Sirah ibn Hisham, or Tarikh al-Tabari, you find that they are written in a manner, the reports are mentioned. As a matter of fact, sometimes you read those things and you feel like, why the person who has written this Sirah, why is he repeating the same event over and over? The reason is he is giving different reports of the same event. And there could be a minor variation of reporting. And we know that, and I don't want to go into the whole ulum al-hadith of how the hadiths were compiled and how the rawis are verified and all those things, but just to make sure that we start off with this understanding. So hence, when a fasiq person, a transgressor brings the news, for sure that requires more scrutiny than anybody else. Hence, we're talking about Khalid bin Walid issue and Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, in his era, when he was ruling, he dismissed Khalid bin Walid twice from his position. Now, his dismissal was used by the one who are the enemies of Allah Azza wa Jal, enemies of this deen. They use these dismissals to make up stories around it, which are not verifiable, they are incorrect. Not much different than when we talk about the relationship between, for example, Abu Bakr and Ali, or Umar and Ali, Ridwanullah alayhim, that what kind of relationship they had. When you read about those relationships, you get amazed by how much love these Sahaba, Ridwanullah alayhim, they had among each other. And how much utmost respect they had for each other as well. Even though they differed. They differed in their stances, they differed in their responses about certain realities, but they continue to have respect for each other. So now, let's look into those dismissals and what happened really that people, the one who are the enemies of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim, why they made up the stories like that. Now, in the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Khalid bin Walid was assigned as the leader of the army for many battles. Now, during those battles, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he suggested Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu that you should not allow Khalid to distribute the spoils of war the way he wishes. Rather, you tell him that who it should be given to. Specifically, that he was saying that Muhajirin should be getting a better share, especially the one who are poor, the one who are needy. While Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu was of a different opinion, and Abu Bakr in general, he used to give room to his governors and his agents, who was or the leaders of the army, that they had the free hand in these specific issues. For example, the distribution of the spoils of the war. But when Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu reached out to Abu Bakr about this, Abu Bakr reached out to Khalid bin Walid about this. And Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, his response to Abu Bakr Siddiq was that do not interfere with me about these things. And if you don't want me to distribute the spoils of war the way I want to do it, then take this position away from me. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about the conflict in the ideas, conflict in the understanding of applying a rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, here, if it was the command of the Khalifa in the manner that he says you must do that, then of course this will be considered disobedience. But this is not the case. This is why Khalid bin Walid's response was, if you must want me to do this way, then take the position away from me, because his understanding of doing the ruling, applying the ruling was this way. Okay? So Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu said, okay, that's fine. You can continue to be the leader and you can distribute the way you want. So here, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he accepted the understanding of Khalid bin Walid and he let him go. Now, when Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he became the Khalifa. And Abu Bakr passed away, of course, radiallahu anhu. So now he again went to Khalid bin Walid for the same thing. And he asked Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu that he should not be distributing the wealth the way he wishes. And he has to keep track of each camel or each sheep, whatever he's giving, he has to report back. Now, when this happened, Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu's response was the same response as he gave to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. That either you let me do what I am doing, or you can take the position back. Now, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, by the way, to Abu Bakr, he said, when Khalid bin Walid responded at that time, in the time of Abu Bakr, Umar said, remove Khalid bin Walid. Now, Umar was in the same situation now, that Khalid replied the very same way. So now Umar's response was, that would not be right of me that I suggested Abu Bakr something and I don't apply on myself. Hence he removed Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu from his position. So that was the first instance that Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu was removed. And Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah radiallahu anhu was placed as the leader of the army in replacement of Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu. Now Khalid, he accepted the removal of his position. He's not the one who fought back about this. And now when he was removed, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah radiallahu anhu. See, remember that Abu Ubaidah was one of the greatest Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was referred as Aminul Ummah. Aminul Ummah means he was the trustworthy of the Ummah. He was the first handful who entered into the fold of Islam. Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, look the way he consoled to Khalid bin Walid. He said to Khalid bin Walid, it is not worldly power that I seek, and it is not for this world that I strive. What you see will cease and come to an end. Rather, we are brothers who are fulfilling the command of Allah, and it does not matter if a man has his brother in charge of his religious affairs and religious and worldly affairs. Rather, the one who is in charge knows that he is more vulnerable to the temptations and sin because he is a vulnerable position, except for those whom Allah protects, and they are few. So now, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah radiallahu anh clarified his position that he is not taking the position that Umar gave because this is something that he is seeking for. And when Abu Ubaidah asked Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh to take charge of one of the missions later on, Khalid right away said, I'll do it. And inshallah, and I was only waiting for you to tell me. And Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah radiallahu anh, he said, I feel too shy to ask you, O Abu Sulaiman. Abu Sulaiman was the kunya of Khalid bin Walid. And by Allah, Khalid said, by Allah, if a little child was made a leader over me, I will obey. See, that shows the strength of both parties. As a matter of all the parties engaged in this, whether it was Umar bin Khattab, whether it was Khalid bin Walid, and Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah radiallahu anh. So what is really the conflict here that was causing this issue? Look, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh understood because he was the Khalifa, he was Amir al-Mu'mineen. He thought that every action that his wali, his leaders are taking, he is accountable, and he wanted to make sure whoever he made in charge, he will go and check every action that has been undertaken. While Abu Bakr was of the stance that he can give them the free hand, and they can make the choices based on Sharia, meaning where it is a conflict, Abu Bakr was allowing them to do it, the action. Umar was looking at from a far-fetched way that if you give free hand to the governors and to the army leaders, now later in the future, even though Umar had a very strong, firm personality, it is very difficult to bypass Umar bin Khattab. But Umar was looking from the angle that in the future there will be leaders. There will be leaders, and who will take the power and who will have this kind of a free hand to the point that they may defect from the state and they will have their own authority. Now, in the time of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, of course, it was very closely knit. It did not seem possible. But Umar was looking for not only for himself, but even in the future as well. When Umar is gone, what's going to happen? So this was the stance of the Umar regarding his action. Now, it is clear from Khalid's word and action that when it comes to religious and any kind of a position goes, he understood that no matter who is the leader, leadership has to be obeyed. Now, Amir al-Mu'mineen, or the one who is leading the ummah, he does have the right to adopt certain rules, certain laws. And those have to be applied and enforced over the people. Right? Now, what Khalid was looking at, and what Umar was looking at, Umar thought of it, the muhajirin who are from the poor ones, they have more need to be fulfilled, hence they should get the spoil war. While Khalid was looking from the perspective of people who may have more power, may have more power, but they should not, they should be given more because of the mu'allaf al-qulub. Mu'allaf al-qulub meaning you are leaning their hearts towards the deen. Okay? Well, Umar radiallahu anhu was under his understanding that the deen has strengthened enough that we don't need to We don't need to do the mu'alafatul qulub or changing the hearts of the people by giving them some worldly goods. And he said, everybody have their own deen and iman, they can go along with it. We don't have to give them something to change their hearts this way. So this is the first instance that he was removed. Second instance was, so later on, as a matter of fact, while he was fighting in the Sham, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah was the leader, and they were open to land many parts of the lands of the Sham, and Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah made Khalid bin Walid as the governor over there, because you are the one who opened the land, somebody has to govern the places. Now, later on, Khalid bin Walid came in the area called Qanassarin or Qanassarin. In the 17th year Hijrah, and Umar al-Khattab and Iyad ibn Ghanam, they penetrated into the Byzantine territory and had come back with a great amount of spoil. Now, Ashad ibn Qais al-Kindi, he's the one who knew about the generosity of Khalid bin Walid. He came and he asked for some wealth. And Khalid bin Walid, he gave him 10,000, and the book says 10,000, most probably 10,000 dirham was given to him. Now, when Umar radiallahu anh, he found out that the 10,000 was given to Ashad, so he asked Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh to come and he summoned him, report him in Medina. He wanted to find out where did he get this 10,000 dirham, and how did he give to Ashad al-Kindi. Now Umar came to Medina. He traveled all the way to Medina. He met Umar. Now before he met there, so Khalid already was removed from his position. Okay, and one of the person came to Khalid bin Walid, and he said that that you were removed unjustly, and this is the time of the fitna. And at that time, Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu's response right away was that as long as Umar bin Khattab is alive, all the doors of the fitna will be closed. Okay? And that was sufficient for him to stop the person who was talking. Because Khalid made a statement that made him think this way, that Khalid can be now pushed to do some sort of uprising against Umar or something. Because he said, Amir al-Mu'mineen appointed me as the governor in Sham until things started to become smooth and sweet. Then he dismissed me. When he said this, based on that, the guy tried to incite something towards Khalid towards Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh. But Khalid, because of his nerve, because of his patience, because of his understanding, right away he wanted to calm down the situation, and now he headed to Medina. When he headed to Medina, and when he met Umar, Khalid said to Umar, I complained about you to the Muslims, and by Allah, you are not being kind to me. So he said certain things. You are not being kind to me. Oh Umar. Umar asked, from where did this wealth come from? So he did not want to talk about the kindness or not kindness. He wanted to say, where did this wealth come from that you distributed? Because for Umar, the idea was to find out where it's coming from. He said, from my share of the booty, whatever is more than 60,000 is yours. So Umar estimated the wealth and found it was 20,000 dirham, which he put into the Baytul Mal. And they said, oh Khalid, by Allah, you are dear to me, and you will not be upset with me after today. And Umar wrote to the regent saying, I did not dismiss Khalid because I was angry with him or because of any misconduct on his part. So he wanted to clarify that as well. Okay, then why did he dismiss Khalid bin Walid? Then the question comes in. And Umar mentioned that. He said that I wanted them to know that Allah is the one who brings the victory, so that they would not be confused about this fact that the victory comes because of Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh. See, a leader is more than just sending commands or decrees. Rather, he is looking at the commands or the decrees that he's sending down. What are the consequences within the people as well? He is the one who is keeping the ummah united, not the one who is disintegrating the ummah based on whatsoever differences people have, as unfortunately today the ummah is divided. So Umar radiallahu anh was looking further than just keeping them happy. Rather, he wanted to make sure that these kind of false ideas do not get into the ways of the Muslim's heart, that because Khalid is the one who is the head of the army, any army, and they go and defeat the enemy, and they are able to conquer such a huge pieces of land because Khalid was a leader. He wanted to break this away. And not only breaking this away, he's also creating more leaders. When you are taking a leader like Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh, and he is not disappearing, he is still part of the army, he is still being consulted, he's the one becoming an advisor to the leaders. And so the Muslim Ummah is not just thinking of, when it comes to the leadership, leaders are Abu Ubaidah, for example, or Khalid, or Muthanna, or Amr bin As. Rather, when these positions are opened up, there are new ones have been trained at the same time as well. So Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh was running the affairs of the Ummah in a manner that it has to be taken care of for the future as well. Because Khalid radiallahu anh was not going to be there forever. Okay, that's one. Second thing is, differences of opinions can happen. Okay, and this is a very important thing for us to understand. Even now, this is at a much bigger level, we're talking about differences of opinions. Even day-to-day life, when we are interacting with each other, we may differ in opinions. There could be as small, I don't want to say small, but as small as just your ibadat directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example. Somebody wants to do the Rafa Yadain in the Salah, other does not do the Rafa Yadain. He is following the Shafi'i way of the Shafi'i understanding, or the Hanafi or Maliki or whatsoever. But as long as it is based on the Quran and the Sunnah. And there's an ikhtilaf about this. Ikhtilaf based on the Quran and Sunnah. How you deal with this is an important aspect. It could be about that kind of stuff. It could be about your personal stuff. For example, the way you dress, the way what you eat. And it could be about the mu'amalat between the people. Now, when it comes to the mu'amalat between the people, this is where the conflict happens. And now we have to understand who is given the right by Allah Azza wa Jal to make sure which opinion goes forward. And in this case, they all understood when Amir al-Mu'mineen is there, if he adopts something, everybody has to follow it. And they did follow the commands of the Imam, or the Amir al-Mu'mineen at that time. So that was the other thing that happened. Now, besides that, the attitude of the Muslims about the specific dismissals has to be also looked into. One time, and this is an incident happened during a night time, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh was during the night in the streets of Medina, and Alqama bin Ulatha al-Kilabi, he is the one who was related to Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh. So Umar, remember that this whole thing that enemies of Islam also make is because Umar and Khalid were cousins to each other. They were related to each other. From the mother's side of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, he was related to Abu Jahl. And Abu Jahl was from Banu Makhzum, as Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh. So this is how the relationship was. Now, cousin, second cousin, third cousin, that's I did not go into the detail, I don't remember that from my mind, but they are referred as that they are related like this. Now, Umar resembled Khalid bin Walid also a lot. So when Alqama, from the far during the night time, he saw Umar, he thought he saw Khalid bin Walid, radiallahu anhu. So he started talking to Umar like this. He said, "Oh Khalid, this man has dismissed you and has insisted on being mean. I came with a cousin of mine to ask him something, but because he did what he did, I will never ask him anything." Who? I will never ask? Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh. Umar goes on. So he said, "Tell me more." Umar wants to know more about what does he have to say about Umar bin Khattab. He did not say that he's Khalid. He's not lying to him in any way. He just said, "Tell me more." And then he said, The people have rights over us and we have to give them their rights and Allah will reward us. Next morning, Umar asked Khalid, when Alqamah was there, and Alqamah was looking at both Khalid and Umar. Okay? So now he's talking to Khalid. He started talking to Khalid. And he said, Khalid, what did Alqamah say to you last night? Now Khalid says, Alqamah did not say anything to me. And he is even taking the hilf. He's saying, by Allah, Alqamah did not say anything to me. Now, Alqamah is getting agitated. Why Khalid is talking like this? Okay? Now, after that, Umar, and then Alqamah goes, come on Khalid. And then Umar was generous and Umar took care of Alqamah's need. Okay? Whatever, because Alqamah was coming for something else and he took care of it. And he said one thing. He said, if there were more people out there who think like you, like Alqamah, and I were keen to obey the ruler even though they disagree with him. See, that's the idea. You can disagree with the ruler. We're talking about the one who's implementing the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you continue to obey. And that will be dearer to me than such and such. Okay? And now, look at the patience of Umar's patience with Khalid's cousin here. So one of the cousin, Amr ibn Hafs ibn al-Mughira, the cousin of Khalid ibn Walid at Al-Jabiyah, he said, when Khalid ibn Walid, he said, when Umar said to people, I will tell you reason why I dismissed Khalid ibn Walid, I ordered him to keep this wealth for the weak ones among the Muhajirin. But he gave it to men of power and strengthened those who were high status and eloquent. So I dismissed him. Remember I was talking about the reason of dismissal of Khalid because of the difference of opinion about that. Now, Abu Umar ibn Hafs, he said, by Allah, you have not justified. O Umar ibn Khattab, you have dismissed a commander who was appointed by Rasulullah. You have sheathed the sword that was unsheathed by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you have taken down a banner that was set up by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have severed the ties of kinship and shown jealousy towards your cousin. Umar ibn Khattab said, you are closely related to him and young in age and angry for sake of your cousin. Thus Umar showed tolerance to the cousin of Khalid ibn Walid, who was defending Khalid to such extent that he actually accused Umar ibn Khattab of jealousy. And he let it go. He just told him, you are young, you are hot-blooded right now, and you are talking like that, and he let it go. Inshallah, I just want to say briefly, and we'll stop here, that Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, when he was on his deathbed, he remembered, and he was talking to Abu Darda radiallahu anhu. So, and Khalid died during the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. It's still in the era of Umar bin Khattab was going on, and he died. He made sure, and he said, that Khalid said, I got upset with him for a certain issue, but when I thought about it, when I got sick and felt that death is at hand, I realized Umar seeks the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in whatever it takes, no matter what. And he said, I got upset with him when he sent someone to take half of my wealth, and he even took one shoe and I took the other shoe. But he did do that to others as well, who had come to Islam way before me, the one who participated in the Badr. So Umar was equally firm, and if some people use the term tough with the people, it had nothing to do because he was a cousin or there was some jealousy. Rather, he was equally firm with all of them. To the point, Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh praised Umar, and then he even asked that his will should be executed by Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh. He did not have to. But he asked, Umar is the one who should be the one who would be taking care of his will as well. After he passed away, the female members of Khalid bin Walid family were crying, and they were crying so much that the people said to Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh that go and stop them to cry. And Umar said, Umar himself was weeping, and he said, let them cry, let them weep for Abu Sulaiman, as long as they do not utter something which they should not be uttering while they are mourning, while they are crying. Crying is allowed for that. And he said concerning him, a hole has developed in the structure of Islam. When Hisham ibn al-Bakhtari came to Umar with some people from Banu Makhzum, Umar said to Hisham, who was a poet, recite something for Khalid bin Walid. And when he recited some poetry in the favor of Khalid bin Walid, he said, you have fallen short in praising Abu Sulaiman. May Allah have mercy on him. He loved to humiliate shirk and his people. Then he said, may Allah have mercy on Abu Sulaiman. What is with Allah is better for him than what he had in this world. He is missed after his death, and he was praised whilst he lived. No one will live forever. That's what he said about Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh. That shows the love they both continue to have, even though Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh dismissed him from those positions. And that had nothing to do with any kind of a jealousy among them. Rather, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh was dealing all of the people under him in the equal manner. So just want to make sure that we have clarity on this subject, because many a times the enemies of Islam, they try to paint the picture of the history of Islam in a manner that people start to hate the history of Islam, to the point they think as if Islam was never implemented. Look, humans are the one who implemented the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are the one who will continue to rule by the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And humans can make mistakes. Even in the cases when we go back to our glorious history, yes, we can see mistakes in there, but those mistakes we should not be making those mistakes as the norm of our history of Islam. This is why it's important for us to look at the history in a proper manner, and we will really feel that an honor for ourselves that we belong to that history, these people like the Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim, the people who followed them, the Tabi'een, Tabi'een, and later generations. And we feel proud of belonging to the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who brought the justice for the Muslims and non-Muslims alike. Jazakumullah khairan. If there's any questions or comments about the subject, inshallah, I will try to answer. Otherwise, we'll stop here.